Hello everyone and welcome back to Factorio. I have done some work, as you can see. So this is my iron smelting setup. It's not connected to anything yet, so it doesn't really do anything. But this is just to give you a sense of scale. And this should never ever require an upgrade unless I've made some mistake in my calculations or it turns out I don't have enough roboports, but for now I think we might be okay. I'm not entirely sure actually. So obviously for something this scale, robots are really the only solution, and that's why there's a ton of roboports. Actually, just for the lulz, let's do this. Run all the way down here. All the way over here. This will also tell you just how big this thing is that I've created. Okay, this is okay. See, obviously not a blueprint I'm ever going to place, but should give you an idea of just the scale of things we're working with. So this contains 242 roboports and 730 furnaces. Now, if you remember from last time, I calculated that I required 662. I think I'm right saying, which is the sort of bare minimum to constantly supply my 1000 signs per minute base. I made it slightly bigger because firstly it made the design symmetrical and match up and such. And secondly because I might want certain parts of the base to use other materials or to produce other materials as well. I've already had to supplement my initial base with a new iron supply. So I've now, where are you? Over here. I've now tapped this iron vein as well. And I'm smelting it over here. Because my other iron supply was running quite low. I'm still doing okay for copper. Yeah, this thing here will keep me in copper for a while yet. But eventually this might not cut it anymore. And just in case that ever happens, I might want my new mega base to basically produce some materials that I don't directly need for science, but that I need to set up stations and such. And for that I just want a little bit of an overflow, so I have more furnaces than I technically absolutely require. As you can see, it's 730, so that's what, around 70 more than I need. 10%-ish. Bit more than 10%. Thereabouts. So that's the reason I have more of those. I also make a habit now of putting tons of lights in my designs, so that even though it's now nighttime, we can all see. And yeah, just look at the glory of this. Now it'll all be supplied by robots. On this scale, belts are just no longer useful. Especially considering that belts cause lag, whereas robots, funnily enough, even though there's a ton of objects flying around, they actually have less of an impact on the UPS. Not sure about FPS, but FPS basically only matter if I'm actually in the area. So it might be that with 1,000 robots flying around here, my FPS will be really, really bad. But as long as my UPS is fine, it's okay. I'll have terrible frame rates while I'm actually here working. But once I move to a more quiet part of the base, the FPS won't be an issue because it won't have to render all the robots, but my UPS will be fine. And yeah, it's an important distinction to make. I think I've spoken about it before. If I haven't, drop me a comment and I'll explain it. So yeah, I will be shipping an iron ore with these trains. I've decided to go for double-headed 262 trains, which means 2 locomotives going one way, 6 wagons, and then 2 locomotives going the other way. They are currently not being supplied with fuel. That's actually one of the first things I will be setting up. And the idea is they will bring in iron ore, and they will quickly be unloaded. 12 stack inserters per wagon, unloading directly into these active providers. I could have used passive providers just as well. There's not actually any difference the way I'm designing it. An active provider basically tells robots, anything that's in here, take it away immediately. Put it into storage. Unless there's no storage available. Which is the case for me. This network here will not have any storage chests. So it won't ever have storage into which to put the stuff. I just used active providers. I don't know, I preferred the color, I guess. It's just there's no difference in the way I'm using them. It might actually be that it has an effect on the lag, but I would have to check that and see if that's the case. In which case, obviously, I would go for the ones that are less laggy, but I am not aware of that. Okay, cool. If you mouse over one of the inserters, it tells you which power poles are providing it with power. It's kind of cool. I never knew that. Anyway, I'm not using belts here at any point, because belts are fairly limited in their throughput. Whereas this way, I have 6 stack inserters on each side, so 12 per wagon inserting directly into chests. And that should be able to empty the train in less than 10 seconds. I think something like 7 point something seconds is what it comes out at. I might not be entirely correct on that. But that means that the trains will never have to spend much time in the station. And that means that eventually I can have the station support much more than these number of trains, even though for the beginning these will be ample. I think this is 16 trains. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, yeah. So 16 trains. If I have all of these running all the time, that will be just fine. I'm not quite sure how I'll set it up yet. Maybe I'll have them wait at the mines until they're full and then come here and be emptied, or I'll have them wait a certain amount of time at the mines. I'm not 100% yet. I will have to see and check what works best. I've currently also set up the possibility to supply the trains with fuel here. Each of these requested chests requests 100 rocket fuel. Obviously, I'll need to have a way to pump rocket fuel into this logistics network, but that'll come later. I might also decide to not have refueling at these drop-off stations and only have them be refueled at the loading stations, at the mines where they get loaded. I'm not sure which is better. Probably the way I've set it up now. The reason why is that once I've set up some sort of base, factory, machine, whatever that produces the rocket fuel, which I might just use the oil down here, which is, it's very nearby and it would be really, really cool, but it would also look a bit ugly, and it would make transporting the iron away a little difficult. So I don't know, might also just decide to make the rocket fuel down here, or maybe I'll combine some of these. I'll have to see. The idea is basically rocket fuel is the ideal fuel because it gives the best acceleration for your trains. So yeah, and that'll just be supplying the trains. The advantage of doing it here is that it's a central location, so I only need to get the rocket fuel here. If I supply them at every single mining outpost, then I would also need to get the rocket fuel to every single mining outpost, which might not be ideal. Another idea I've had is to just use this huge oil field here. That will be safe for the foreseeable future because it'll take forever before this is no longer able to supply enough rocket fuel. I'll just have a fuel producing station here, and I will sort of have a largely separate track system that will run the fuel to this smeltery. Now, I will need to do a similar thing for copper, even though it won't be nearly as large. And I will also need to do a similar thing for steel. But the way I'll do it is this iron here that's being produced here is, thank you, is for use as normal iron and also for steel. I've just worked out how much steel I need, how much iron I need, and I've combined them. So this iron ore is in parts for directly being used as plates and in parts for being turned further into steel. And that's the way I've set it up. This will supply both my normal iron and my steel demand. So obviously I'll need the station elsewhere, maybe down here-ish, which will be smaller than this one, which will take some of the iron and turn it into steel. Yeah, just in case... I'm not sure how much I should explain, that's the thing. If you know the game, some of this will be a bit redundant, but this system will get a boatload of logistic robots, and these transport items between, well, logistic chests and such. What does actually the description say? Logistic chests, yeah, okay. So these active providers will basically be telling robots anything that's in these can be used. And then down in the smeltery I've set up these requester chests. Each of those requests 1,000 iron ore. And because they each request equally, I believe the robots will distribute any iron ore that comes in equally among these chests. That's the advantage of requesters over storage chests. Since I use active providers at the trains, up here, or active provider chests, if I put down storage chests here, they would also get filled with iron ore. But the way it works with storage chests is, they try to fill up one entirely before moving on to the next one. As long as I bring in more iron ore than I can actually consume, which I believe with this many stations I can definitely do, then eventually it would lead to the point where all of these are, if they were storage chests, they would all be completely full, and all of my furnaces would be running at all times. However, it might take a while to get there. Using this setup here, any amount of iron ore should get equally distributed. So even if I'm only just supplying enough to consume, to fuel or to provide all of these furnaces with iron ore, they will still all be running permanently, instead of huge storage chests up here being completely full and backed up, and ones down at the bottom being completely empty. So this is a better way to do it. And then of course the output of these furnaces gets put into these active provider chests. Again, I could have used passive providers here because I'm not using storage chests. I don't believe it makes any difference whatsoever. If you happen to know that there's a difference in lag or anything like that, let me know. I definitely don't want to have this be an issue. And then the next step that I will be building for this is, actually, let me get out of here. You can run through all of these machines quite easily, but it's I think you can squeeze past them, but you have to zigzag around a lot. Going around the side is more convenient. And then what will happen down here is that will be where the iron is loaded onto trains to be basically taken to where it needs to be. This will kind of be a mirror reflection of the way I've got it up here. This bottom row of roboports might get changed for that, and there will just be similarly double-ended trains 262 running down here into this general direction and supplying anything I have here with iron. I've basically decided that I will keep my train systems sort of separate. I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but anything up here to the north, that's where I will be getting my ore from. So I will definitely need copper, I will definitely need iron, I will need some stone. I will probably keep uranium separate, but I might mine it out as well. I'm not quite sure if I'll actually be using uranium or not. I don't have to. It's nice for power, but I might also just move over to solar power, because solar power is much better for the UPS. The reason why is that with the nuclear reactors and also the steam power, every nuclear reactor has to be calculated separately. And yeah, there's no radar coverage here. I can't show you. Do I have radars on me? I do. Okay, I'll just run radar coverage down to my reactor. But each reactor has to be considered separately because it has different amounts of fuel left in it, different amounts of heat, different amounts of neighbor bonus, and all that stuff. And the same with the steam engine. Each boiler and each engine and such, they're all separate entities because they might all have different amounts of... okay, one more on the other side and we should be good. They might all have different amounts of resources in them, and yeah, the game just has to calculate them all separately. On the other hand, solar power, it's just all calculated as one thing. The game looks, how many solar panels do you have? In my case, where are you? There, I have 21,000 solar panels. The game just takes all of these and says, okay, so each of them produces 60 kilowatts at during the day and 0 at night, and then there's a gradient in between. But it just takes one solar panel, calculates how much that produces at the moment, and times it by how many I have placed. So it's really nice, and it's really good for the lag, because instead of having, in this case, 352 different entities all calculated separately because they have different amounts of steam in them and all that, and different temperatures, it's just all solar panels are one thing. It's just, instead of calculating them all separately, because they're all the same, there's no difference, there's no planetary rotation or anything like that being calculated where the night line kind of sweeps across the land or anything like that. It's just all one thing, which is very good for the lag, and possibly something I'm going to just switch to, in which case I would not need uranium at all. It's kind of cool, but the only other reason I would need it is for nuclear weapons, which are kind of, they're just nice for clearing forests out because they have a huge splash radius. I mean, right now, if you look at this, my nuclear is completely backed up because I'm just full on fuel cells. You can see, it's just, I am set for those for a while. But yeah, that would be the only reason I need uranium, and those amounts that I need for that, this ore patch down here still has 7.4 million left. It's going to be a long time. If all I do is nuclear weapons, that would last a long time, and there's another small patch with 4.5 million right here. In which case I really wouldn't need to bother. Yeah, getting more of that. Anyway, all the ore will be coming from up here. Next to the iron, there will be a slightly smaller smeltery for copper, which I'll set up for next time. We'll do a bit more on-screen building once I've got the really massive stuff out of the way. Right now it'll mostly be update videos, which you can probably safely skip. I just love this thing, it's so huge, so nice. But yeah, you wouldn't want to see me placing this entire thing manually. I mean, obviously I used blueprints for a lot of it, but I made some mistakes and I had to fix them, blueprint the entire thing again. It took 3-4 hours to set this all down, and then figuring out how to make it look nice and symmetrical and where to put the trains and such. It just took forever, and you really wouldn't want to see that. But yeah, next to it there will be a copper smelting and probably a small stone smelting, because I'll need bricks. And then next to those, there might be a huge sea here, I'll have to see. But yeah, next to those, I'm probably going to put depots. Depots for stone, because I think some stuff I do requires raw stone. Probably a depot for coal as well, because I know some stuff requires coal. But actually, I think the only thing that requires coal would be plastics, so maybe I'll do it slightly differently. But thing is, I want this up here, a broad line of these big central stations. That's supposed to provide the input of raw materials. So the iron plates, copper plates, possibly steel plates, stone bricks, stone, and either coal, or if I do it differently, plastic. And probably another one for petroleum. But we'll see about all that and how exactly I'll do it. Yeah, probably have a huge oil factory here as well. Anyway, point is, that'll all be one row right here, and the mining will all happen above. So I'll mine stuff up here and ship it down, and then the actual production of my science stuff will happen down here. Now, I have a ton of landfill, so if this is not too huge of a sea, I can just fill this in. If it's a big lake, I have enough for that. Like something along the size of this, or maybe a bit bigger. Even this I might be able to do, but really huge stuff, probably not. Anyway, we will see how the landscape looks here, and then we'll see if that's enough space or not. But yeah, that'll be where I do the actual production of science. But for next time, I'll decide on how I want to progress here, and probably... Alright, there's something floating through my room, but it's just one of those seed capsule things. It looked like a bit of an insect. Yeah, I'll definitely set up the copper stuff right next to this one. Or, well, not right next to it. I'll definitely leave enough space so that I can do my train tracks safely. And yeah, this is one really annoying thing, by the way. All of these are identical in their placement. I blueprinted them and put them down identically to how they were before. But the way the wires connect is random, because it depends on the order in which the robots place them. Which means if the robot places them the way I manually place them on this first station, then it'll all be fine. It'll look like this. But sometimes they randomly place them in a different order. And then you get stuff like this, where they connect over cross. And that just... yeah, there's nothing I can do about it. Except for obviously manually placing all of the power poles, but that would be insane. Is also why this all looks like a bit of a mess on this screen when I display the electric connections. But I assure you, it's all perfectly regular and they're all perfectly equal. Even though possibly a few more than I'd actually needed, but it doesn't matter. But yeah, it's just because of the order that the robots placed them in, it doesn't look regular at all. It's a bit sad. I mean, I really like the electric connections here. It's all very regular. But that's because there's no other way for them to connect. Doesn't matter which order they're placed in. That's just the only way it can work. Whereas this, because I placed quite a lot of them, yeah, possibly I can remove some of them. But I actually really like the density of this. There's not a single space really wasted, even though I probably... not sure if I could remove some of them. Anyway, yeah, just wanted to give you this quick update so you can see how things are getting along. I have no idea, by the way, how many robots I will need for this network. I've currently got about 10,000 stored. Just want to show you this very quickly before I end the episode. Right here, I've just got a single factory making robots. This will be enough for now. While I've been building, it's already accumulated 4 full steel chests, which is a little under 10,000 robots. Now, obviously, this will need to handle 100,000 iron per minute, so 10,000 robots. Not sure if they'll be enough. We'll have to see. But yeah, it's also the reason why there need to be so many roboports, because the robots need charging up. Even as it is, this might not be enough. I'm hoping that the double row in the middle will be sufficient to supply it all. But if not, I can still put a ton around the sides. So maybe 2 or 3 lines thick around the sides, if this happens to not be enough. But if that's still not enough, then I will have to revamp the entire thing. Unfortunately, I have no experience because I've never built a logistics network of this scale. So I'm gonna have to just test and see, yeah, if it works out or not. We'll see. But yeah, next time I will have a bit more of this finished. Probably also. Yeah, I'll see and explore a bit. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.